Welcome once again to the Tin Dog Podcast. This week we'll be talking mainly about this week's episode of Torchwood, which would be episode 2.4, known as Meat. Now, if anybody actually listened to the opening music, you will notice that I've kind of gone for a whole League of Gentlemen, Torchwood bit of theme music, mainly because when I was watching this I just kept thinking of Hilary Briss, the butcher from the League of Gentlemen, and his special stuff. Yes, we finally know where the meat comes from. That gives everybody nosebleeds in the League of Gentlemen. The whole world makes sense. If this episode had been written by Mark Gatiss, that would really have fitted. And so, on with the review. Basically, what did I think of it? Well, it was alright. It filled 50 minutes. I've got no major issues with it. It wasn't the best episode in the world, but it was still, in keeping with this season, better than season 1. The pterodactyl made an appearance. Always a good sign. Jack did say, "Oh, these are extinct, but not in your timeline." Now, I was liking to think that the pterodactyl was left over from either A, an episode of Jigsaw. Yeah, you really have to be English, and you really have to be of a certain age to get that joke. B, it was on loan from Primeval. Or C, it was left over from Operation Golden Age, the John Pertwee story, Invasion of the Dinosaurs. Probably C, but you just don't know. Possibly D, it just came through the rift of its own accord, because in another timeline, dinosaurs were fine. They never died out, and also they never evolved. The fact that I'm talking about the background dinosaur is probably not a good sign when it comes to this story. It's called Meat. Is it enough to put someone off eating food? I don't think so. Is it going to turn someone vegetarian who already wasn't considering it? Probably not. The alien creature itself wasn't investigated half as much as I would have liked. When I was watching it, I was reminded of the old Tom Baker story, The Creature from the Pit, and I did think that's where it was going. I thought that the big wobbly blobby monster was in fact the big wobbly blobby monster from The Creature from the Pit, which was an ambassador, and that would have been really cool if we'd been eating someone who was actually the ambassador from another planet. I really thought that was the way the story was going, and perhaps it was. Perhaps we'll come back to it. We'll never know because of the, and I'm using the little rabbit ears here, mercy killing. There was one scene that made me sort of look at the whole series slightly oddly, and it was the scene that felt as though it had been workshopped rather than written. It was the scene where Wig Girl tells her fiancé what she does for a living, and it really felt like sort of the second week at drama school. Now, these people are talented actors. We've seen them do quite well. We've seen them do very well. Is it the Welsh accent? Is that what it is? I just don't know. The gratuitous use of crash zooms for no adequately explored reason and wobbly cameras to try and give a bit of tension jarred a bit, when the acting itself could have done all of the work for the director, but that's their call, it's not mine, it's not for me to judge. Really, I'm just reviewing it. So, was it any good? Well, as a series filler, yes. I enjoyed it, I have no issues with it. I can't see it being part of a major story arc, but then again, I've said there again, way, have a drink. I didn't really hate it. One can't go around reviewing things just saying, I didn't hate it. But I didn't. It wasn't the best, my favourite episode ever. It felt as though it had slightly more potential that just wasn't quite milked. But perhaps it's part of a bigger story arc. Or more likely, it just isn't. Now, I've heard tell that next week the BBC will be showing the next episode, and BBC Three will be showing the immediate following episode straight after it, which could affect your viewing figures quite badly, so I am concerned about that. But that's not for me. If you don't mind, I'd rather wait until the BBC Two showing of the episode in order to review it, if that's okay with you. That way I can do one show a week. Very shortly, however, there will be a very special episode of the Tin Dog Podcast, my 1-year anniversary edition. I've got something quite special in mind for that. Don't worry, it's not a review of all the old episodes. You can do that for yourself. The moments worth mentioning, of course, or Captain Jack's love of the slightly larger receptionist woman, where I'm sure he acted, well, like a 70s sitcom actor. Yeah. Oh, one thing I am concerned about is John Barrowman okay? In certain scenes, and I don't know if it was the way it was shot, it did look as though one of his eyes was wandering slightly. Now, I'm just concerned over whether he's particularly well or not, or whether it was just the way the scene was shot. You can email me at the address at the end if you know either way. This week, of course, Yanto again was on form with a line that made me laugh, where he said, well, you know, we could feed the world, or we could release a single. I smiled. You know, not a bad thing. Look, I'm going to call this review an end. I've got nothing really else to say, and to be honest, that's kind of what the episode was like. Speak to you soon. Be seeing you. You have been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are all trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Contact us at tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk.